So today we're here to talk about Phoenix and Cloud Cache.
Right.
Obviously, one of the big questions when we start talking about embracing the cloud is speed to the cloud, data back from the cloud, advantages and disadvantages of that for organizations. And Druva, we have Cloud Cache, which is designed specifically to help address those types of kind of immediate challenges businesses face when they do have some type of disruption of data. Can you give us a little bit of background on that element and kind of how it fits into the overall kind of architecture of a company trying to achieve, those types of SLAs?
Yeah, sure, Dave. So if you see what's actually happening in the enterprise today, a lot of organizations typically have a lot of data, which is their secondary data. And for those organizations that have a cloud initiative, which is essentially they want to protect their data in the cloud, one of the things that they're facing today is their requirements for their customers are very tight RTO and RPO requirements. And essentially that comes from the fact that they have guarantees to their customers for tight SLAs, right? And so all those organizations that want to move their data protection initiatives to the cloud come back and say, hey, we have very low bandwidth, or we want to make sure that we are able to recover quickly all the information that we've put in the cloud. What kind of a solution do you have from that perspective? And so what we've done is we've architectured a software which pretty much sits on any commodity hardware that an organization can leverage and now can protect their data directly on premises, which synchronizes at a different time to the cloud. What that enables organizations to do now is that they can now immediately back up and leverage their LAN and restore at LAN speeds while synchronizing data to the cloud at an off-peak hour, for example, in case of low bandwidth. And so what organizations can now achieve is LAN-like speeds backup and restores, and while achieving their cloud initiatives where they can move their data protection needs to the cloud.
So what happens as your business expands? Let's say you have multiple sites, et cetera. What is the advantage of this kind of model?
That's actually something that we've also seen that really helps with this model is that now when you have multiple sites, say site 1, site 2, this cloud cache that we were talking about can now be leveraged for all those places where you have low bandwidth. So your cloud cache comes here, or you can actually utilize the same cloud cache. You can move it to the site 2 also once you've already seeded the data to the cloud, or you can just put another cloud cache here, which is again a commodity hardware that you can leverage and just install the Phoenix software on it and back up directly to the cloud. The advantage here is that for remote sites, we've seen organizations where they have very low bandwidth. And so this can also be used from a seeding perspective as well, where originally you back up all the data to the cloud cache, which keeps local data hot for up to 30 days, and then synchronize that data to the cloud at any given time, say over the weekends off during peak hours, and that can help with initial seeding needs as well.
Okay. And then obviously one key element here is what the cloud provides, right? Single control plane, global deduplication across all of these sites, regardless of cloud caches.
That's right.
One question we get is, what happens if I have a site failure?
Yeah. So a lot of organizations have said, what happens if we do have a site failure? The way we've architected Cloud Cache, if there's ever a site failure, it really doesn't matter, because the data has already been synchronized to the cloud. And since the control plane remains to live in or reside in the cloud, if this does go down, then they're still able to recover directly from the cloud. Or they have the option of putting back another cloud cache and recovering all the information from there. But really, it is already synchronized to the cloud, and the data is always protected within the cloud.
Right. And one of the advantages of Phoenix, obviously, is that because of the single control plane, if you did have a failure, you lost any data or whatever, you can always have immediate access to your data.
That is
cloud,
correct.
file level recovery, those types of elements.
That's right.
Regardless of the caching capability or not. Give me a sense of, what are the requirements? I mean, do you have to have cloud cache or what have you?
Great question. So cloud cache is completely optional. It's completely left up to you whether you want to leverage it or not. If you do have an initiative of moving everything to the cloud, you can use Phoenix with a direct-to-cloud model. But for very tight SLAs or initial seeding requirements, or for very high-performance LAN restores and backups, you can leverage cloud cache as an optional piece that you can put on any commodity hardware and leverage from a data protection standpoint.
Okay. From an overall system administration standpoint, what is the experience of a system administrator?
It's seamless, essentially, because everything happens in the cloud and the control plane resides in the cloud. The admin has nothing to do except for just installing the piece of software on the cloud cache, and it happens automatically. Data starts moving to cloud cache and then gets synchronized to the cloud. One of the advantages that we're seeing in terms of speed, you can get very high speed restores, for example, as I was alluding to earlier. You can get up to 1 terabyte per hour restore speeds per virtual machine, for example, to meet your SLAs.
Right, which meets a lot of companies' requirements from an overall RTO perspective. Yeah. Great. Any other kind of final thoughts on Cloud Cache?
So Cloud Cache, just to wrap it up real quick, Cloud Cache is an optional piece of software that gets installed on any commodity hardware of your choice. Again, it is optional. This is for organizations to meet very tight SLAs in terms of RTOs and RPOs, and then while meeting their cloud initiatives in terms of data protection and moving all workloads to the cloud and protecting their information irrespective of what may happen on premises.
Right. With the key being, being able to embrace the cloud without having to compromise your SLAs, right? Great. Really appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave.